Aloha! Welcome back to the Anxiety Coaches Podcast. I'm your host and coach, Gina Ryan, and I'm so happy to be with you again today as we consider the many ways to bring your mind and body back to its natural peace and calm. In today's episode, I'm talking about overthinking and social anxiety. I get a lot of mail from people, young people who are struggling with social anxiety, but I also get a lot of mail from all ages of people who are struggling with social anxiety. We often think of it as younger people just kind of blossoming out into the world and feeling social anxiety, but all ages. Some people never really pull themselves out of it or learn to cope with it and be able to push through. As I said in another episode earlier, feel the fear and do it anyway. So, do you overthink social interactions that you find yourself in? And how do you feel when you're approaching a large group of people? Some people thrive more when they're surrounded by people and they seek out large groups of people, and others need quiet time to recharge. So think about how you feel when you're in large groups. It's common for our thoughts to get a little erratic or to speed up in social situations because we're paying attention to so many different things. The larger the crowd, the more there is to pay attention to, and for so many people, this can be overwhelming. But there are many things that we can do to help to ease any social anxiety that you might feel, regardless of the situation, regardless of your age, regardless of how long you've struggled with it. Maybe you didn't have social anxiety in the past, but it pops up here and there, depending on the situation. So we can all use some good strategies for when the social anxiety may arise for us. I consider myself an introvert, and so I am one of those people who I can go out with groups of people. I can feel very comfortable actually in a large group of people, but I need to have downtime. I need to have time where I am alone. I can sort through my thoughts. And if I don't get that, then I can start to feel uncomfortable in big settings because I am not on top of my game. So it's almost like being real hungry or something and trying to go out and have a good evening. Like you wouldn't be feeling right because you were struggling with hunger. So same thing with rest, and with people who are more introverted, they need a little bit more time to themselves so that they can feel on top of their game and be out there in the world. So here are some strategies to help to just kind of minimize those fears that might come up. The first one is that I'd like you to consider being really curious about the fear. It's when we are afraid of it that we get ourselves stuck in the loop. But if you could look at it with curious eyes, it might change it up a little bit. Is there something that's specific in the group or in the event that you're afraid of that might happen? Or is it just a general feeling? And so I want you to consider your feelings when you think about an upcoming social situation. What emotions come up for you when you're walking through a crowd or when you're having a one-on-one meeting with somebody? See if there's a difference. And we can only do this, again, is if we are being aware of where we are, what we're doing, and how we are feeling. You can begin to notice the differences and maybe start to make some connections that you hadn't made before. Another idea is for you to get really rational. Sometimes when we are nervous or we're feeling anxiety, we're totally irrational. There's just the fear thoughts going on. But if you can get real rational, you can't really predict the future, right? You can't. You don't know rationally. You can't say what's going to happen in the future. So bring yourself back to earth. Bring yourself back to the present moment and acknowledge that you can choose to actually think that this might be a good experience. Again, like in the last episode, tell yourself a different story. Or you could actually choose to assume that it's going to be all negative. And the reality is you can handle either one. If it's really negative, you can handle it. And obviously, if it's a really positive experience, you will enjoy that also. But just know it doesn't matter which one happens. You can handle it. But why suffer twice by worrying about it beforehand or dreaming it up, right, so to speak, and then also going through the situation? Assume that it might be a good experience. Tell yourself that new story. The third one I have for you is I would love you to pull up your compassion. All moments, any moment in time is a good time for you to be compassionate with yourself. You don't gain anything by beating yourself up. The world will do that for you. There are probably many people around you that will correct you and do that for you. You have to give yourself a break. Now, you don't give yourself a break to just lay around all day. You know what I'm talking about. Stop beating yourself up about things that you cannot control. Be compassionate. Give yourself a break if you are just practicing and learning new ways of being in a social setting. Don't expect a miracle overnight. Give yourself a pat on the back for even showing up. The fourth one is try to find a buddy, a friend, someone who understands what you're going through to go to some social situations with you. You and your friend will have a stronger bond by going through this together, and you'll actually probably have some fun together. And you will also have the chance to embrace some of that social setting with a new energy. When you can move past this fear of getting there and doing something different and new, you can expand your horizons even further. You'll continue to grow your self-compassion by moving through the fear little bits at a time and staying curious about it rather than freaking out, going into the old story, and totally shutting down or shying away from anything that might be out of your comfort zone. And when you need to recharge and be alone, do it. Do not feel shame or guilt about the fact that you need to rest and recharge. When you truly believe that you're worthy, you will find many of your common irrational fears begin to fade away. As these fears begin to dissipate, you will find yourself feeling more open and more willing to have new experiences and adventures. I know this on a personal level, so I know that you can do it too. So here we are back at avoiding overthinking for things such as social anxiety and general anxiety, because we are all prone to overthinking. If anybody who's listening to this show is probably somewhat of an overthinker. It's how we get ourselves into trouble with anxiety for sure. Do you ever try to write your thoughts down, but they seem to come too quickly for you? Do you have that feeling of overwhelming thoughts frequently? You might. How much time do you spend ruminating? How much time do you spend looking back at the past over and over again? Well, imagine a day where you take each moment as it comes and don't think about past moments. Imagine going to sleep at night without replaying all the wrong things you said that day. That was a real bugger for me back in the day. I would lay there and I would go over and over conversations that should have gone a different way, what I could have said, what I should have said. Oh my, that was a big one for me. And so I know that you can break free of this. This freedom is totally possible by practicing some new things and applying some principles, new principles to your daily life. We all have a little nagging voice in the back of our head that can tend to narrate the negative things regularly. You know, it can convince us of all kinds of things, that it knows what other people are thinking, especially what they're thinking about us. Well, that's mind reading. That is not possible. And then when you start believing those things, you're only creating more stress and destruction in your own life. So instead of replaying each conversation you've ever had, start to focus your attention on the present moment. Bring yourself back to right where you are, right here, right now. You're listening to me. When we remember the past, typically we see more of the negative than the positive. So we can learn to let go of the past. It's okay. It's really a good thing to do. It's okay to let go of the past. It's gone. So what conversations or behaviors do you think about when you're replaying negativity in your head? Are there people that you avoid because you're afraid of what they might think of you? This is a big one for people. Again, that can begin to play into social anxiety. Now is the moment where you can let yourself let go of all those things and move forward. You don't need to ruminate over the past. It actually can become a bad habit. And, it's like a routine you get into. A certain thought or a certain person pops into your head and you go directly into the old rumination. Are there memories that make you sad or angry, or are there things that you're worried about for the future? You can begin to let these things go by releasing regrets and turning them into a tool for positive growth. Why do you want to let them go? The first thing is that because you can't change what happened. It's already gone. It happened. This is a place where you can accept. So, here's some strategies that you can use. First, you can get curious about exactly what it is that you're regretting. Again, there's that word curious. We want to stay curious. Is like being like a baby, just everything is brand new. So look at it with new eyes. Do you regret old relationships or decisions, maybe behaviors you've done? These regrets can cause the most distress and are important to see them clearly so that you can let them go. Because what we don't acknowledge, we cannot change. You could write about these big regrets. Get them apart from your mind so that you can look at them. Get specific about what you regret. Consider your lifestyle, your behavior towards others, or your decisions. And I want you to do all of this non-judgmentally. Do not be hard on yourself. You are learning a new way. And when we are learning something new, we don't need to judge how we're doing it. Just showing up is a great start. And look at your regrets and think about what lessons you can learn from them. The silver lining. There's always something silver lining there for you to take. You don't need to use regrets to try to be perfect and bring up that perfectionist in you. Instead, you can look at them as opportunities to learn something new about yourself in a positive way. I want you to also learn to practice self-forgiveness. Give yourself permission to forgive yourself and grow forward. Imagine the shackles of your past dissolving. Really, just see them falling apart. You will naturally struggle from time to time, but the more you practice self-forgiveness, the easier it will be. And I want you to decide how to move forward. Though you can't control every aspect of your life, you can control the decisions you make based on what? The present moment. You don't need to hide away in shame or to continue to doubt yourself. Instead, you can get strong, have some courage, and embrace each moment with a stronger sense of compassion for yourself. And let your compassion flow out from you to others also. Regret helps us feel compassion for others because we can put ourselves in their shoes when sharing difficulties, even if we are on different paths. So when you find yourself stuck in regret, you can instantly relate to all who have felt what you feel. You grow through both your struggles and your successes. You can use these moments of regret to re-energize your efforts to live a great life, a full life with love. And I know that you can do these things because not only have I made large changes like these in my own life, but I have worked with so many other people that have done this too. It really is possible. And we don't make all these changes that I talk about all at once. Pick and choose what feels like it's resonating with you right now and start there. Just make some forward motion and make it in a way that you are changing how you are thinking, moving it from the old negative broken record into something that you are consciously aware of and thinking on purpose. I'm so glad to be here with you as we unfold this new year together. And now for today's quote. Nothing diminishes anxiety faster than action. And that's from Walter Anderson. I'll be back in a few more days with another podcast. Until then, be well and aloha.